Hey class, welcome to week number 3 of the semester. You've survived this far, congratulations. That means that you're probably pretty well oriented to how I'm running the class. Nevertheless, I wanted to provide a really brief introduction to a couple things. We're moving on to our exercise number 2 this week, and there's some really core videos related to core programming fundamentals that I wanted to review and just give you a little sense of what you should be doing this week, just as a bit of an introduction. So I'm going to jump to week 3 of the semester here, and we're really focused this week on core programming concepts. So all of the videos and tutorials here really are core to understanding any kind of programming language, and a lot of these concepts are really quite universal across languages. Even some of the syntax is quite universal, and so I highly encourage you to watch these videos if you have not, if you're sort of planning to skip around. I know that sometimes they're a little bit boring, and I don't know exactly what to do about that. A lot of times these core programming fundamentals, you need these things in order to do anything fun, right? In order to really make any kind of programs. So they're not that long. Engage with them, and I think you'll find value in doing so. But when you engage with these videos, I do have a couple notes about what I think you should be doing at the same time. So first and foremost, if I click, you'll notice that I have the videos sort of categorized. And if you click on the very first video within a category, it will launch in YouTube. And in YouTube, I've been migrating all of my videos to YouTube now. So each video that you'll see in the future probably is going to be on YouTube. There's a number of advantages to that. First of all, I've created a playlist, as you can see. So each of these videos are set into a playlist for that particular category. Therefore, you can just progress one to the other through the playlist. Now, that's not all the videos for that week. Keep in mind that the playlists here are just the categories, right? So whatever the category is, that's the playlist. I am letting you know kind of how long these are so you can gauge your time and how much time you have. It will take you longer to get through these videos than the allotted amount of time, though. And that's because really when you engage with the videos, I expect that you should be coding along with me at the same time. These are meant for you to have a code editor open, that you can open my video, and that you can play with what I'm talking about and actually see it in action, mess around with the numbers a little bit, mess around with your code a little bit. And you should be capturing those things in your code library. And so if you've not already done so, this is one of the tasks this week. Create a folder on the MAT server within your name called codeLibrary, and add at least one file to it to get it started. Part of the ideas here is that I want you to have a library of sample code at the end of this class that represents a variety of different ways of coding, so that you have examples that you can return to if you're like, well, wait, I don't remember how to write an if conditional statement. Well, you'll have like a sample that you've done from this class that will give you a little of that information. So as you're coding, I highly encourage you to sort of create a library of sample codes that you can turn to. I think a lot of developers have this kind of thing where they have like a library of samples and things that they've been working on, and that they can just refer to those things, because you can't always remember all of the syntax, right? You don't remember everything all the time. And so you want to be able to refer back to these samples to get the syntax, to remember how you did something. And it's useful to code along with me and kind of create that library. So this, it's part of the class. 5% of the grade in your class is to do this library. And it's a way of representing to me that you're following along with these videos, that you're following along with the reading or Codecademy and some of the different ways I'm having you engage with these topics. And so what you're supposed to do is go to the MAT server within your last name, first name folder, create a new folder called codeLibrary, and then just build your library while following along with these videos. You can read over this introduction that's on the projects page, and so, or the assignments page, I should say, and so that you'll just, it'll tell you sort of how to engage with this, right? But basically, if I'm following along with the variables videos, maybe I create a file called variables.js or variables.html, and I'll just upload that into my code library periodically, just to show that I'm actually doing a little work with that. And so under the student work, I know at least somebody's done this already. I'm going to click here on Tito Jackson, and he created the code library, right? That's exactly what you should be doing. Create that code library, and inside of that, drop some files that represent, something that you've been, basically at the end, you'll just have a bunch of files in there that kind of represent that you've been following along with this work. And that's what you're supposed to do. And so while you're coding with these videos, and I'm going to come back to the week here that we're on, but while you're coding alongside these videos, if you open one up, right, then, you can pause that video, you can code alongside with me, save those things, just drop them into your code library while you're working. That's a good way to engage with the class. Now, the code library is not some fixed thing where you have to have a set number of items, or it has to be these. It's really your practice place. It's when you're kind of creating files for practice, and you want to sort of save those as a frame of reference. It's for you. It's for you to have this frame of reference, but I want you to build that. And so go ahead, and that's the idea of how you might engage with these videos, that you'll code alongside me, you drop those things into your code library. So a couple notes about the videos that are here on YouTube, in case you're unfamiliar with some of the YouTube stuff. Obviously, this is too small for me to see. I'd encourage you to go full screen or HD resolution on these things. So these things are built in HD resolution. In case your quality settings are less than that, you can click on the HD and go to the 720 resolution. This is these videos are at 1280 by 720. If you go full screen, it should be a decent quality on your monitors if you go full screen and take a look at these videos. And see, you'll be able to see what I'm doing, kind of code alongside me. The closed captioning should be reasonably decent on these as well if you wanted to turn that on. I do have captions on all those videos. I'm going to turn it off. The other thing is that you often will have settings controls for speed. And so if you were reviewing a video you've already watched, or you felt like I was going too slow or too fast, there's actually options here on the little wheel here for speed. And so I can click on that and actually speed this entire video up to 1.5 times its normal speed and play it where it's a fundamental thing in JavaScript to make decisions within your script. You'll hear me going a lot faster in that particular case. You can also slow me down if you thought I was going a little too fast and actually go to like half speed or something like that. I wanted to point that out because it can be somewhat useful to use that. And you can certainly just click on the video to pause or play what's happening there. And I'm going to get out of that full screen. You can also go into the theater mode, which is just a little bit bigger depending on the size of your monitor or whatnot. But keep in mind the playlists, and keep in mind that those playlists just represent the videos that are in a particular category. Okay, so moving on, the last thing I wanted to mention is that our new exercise here is the exercise to actually create a game of craps, or to simulate a game of craps. And so I'll let you read the rules of a game of craps. That's really important in programming, to really understand the parameters and the rules and the sort of variables that you might have as part of that, right? So here's the rules of the game. And there's a number of different ways to potentially engage with this. And I've set this up sort of with like a basic tasks with, which would be like a C, like if you did these things, and then you can get better and better. And basically what I want you to do is simulate a game of craps so that it would play correctly and output whether or not the user would win or lose the game, right? So output the result of the game, have a little bit of styling to those things at least, so that there's some output and an interface that's reasonably attractive, and that you might visualize some of the results, such as the dice of the game. And I have videos showing you how to do these things for the most part, and they also build upon the core programming ideas that we'll be learning prior to that. So anyway, you can kind of get even better with this, right? So then you'll make this interactive so a user can actually play the game, that it's not just a simulation, but a user can actually play the game, maybe set an amount that they want to bet in the game. Better still is to really focus on the UI and UX to make that really nice. And you should read this over. And then, even better again, there's some other options like simulating thousands of games and graphing the output, to see whether or not it's a good idea to play this game. And you'll probably find out that it really, it sort of favors the house, and that over time you'll probably lose. But you can calculate, for example, winning percentages in the game. And you could do other stuff, right? So it's okay to fork this idea, to take it in a different direction, maybe even to create a different game. But this is the exercise number 2. It's going to be due on the due date here, so pay attention to what that might be. So the last maybe little note that I'll mention is every week I have a list of tasks, right? So make sure that you pay attention to what those are. That tells you what you need to do in that given week, and it links out to other information, and it also gives you the due dates for those things. So this week, creating the code library, if you haven't done so, doing some reading, working on codeLibrary, on some of the interactive tutorials that are there, viewing my videos and tutorials from this week, and then taking the quiz by the end of the week that covers those particular topics, and then starting to work on this craps. You'll have this craps game. You'll have a little bit of time on that. It's not due for a little bit, but you'll have. It's a good idea to sort of read over the directions and get started on those things. You'll notice that I have a kind of multi-thronged approach for you to learn this content, and it is through different modalities, and this is quite purposeful so that you'll engage with this content and these topics, and there's a bit of repetition in this, but it will allow you to sort of reinforce these ideas. And so what I mean by that is that if there's sort of a 3-pronged approach to learning this content. It's through reading in the textbook, and so those are the chapters in particular that are relevant here. It's through working on the interactive tutorials where you'll code alongside the tutorial at codeLibrary, and then it's also through my own videos and tutorials that I'll be providing, and I record most of these myself for you, and they're relevant specifically to the class as well as to some of these core programming ideas. And so usually those are the tutorials that are really useful for the exercises, because you'll get specific information about the exercise, but they're also useful for some of these core programming ideas. And so that's the 3-pronged approach, right? My videos, reading, and the interactive tutorials, and together I think that will give you a really strong foundation here. So please engage with those, and I hope you're enjoying the class thus far. And let me know if you have any questions. You can always go to Canvas and ask questions there along the way. And all right, enjoy the week.